I'm definitely ready for the spooky season now. Time to make a fun, creepy project. Today I'm going to be making some molds of this. This is just my hand. And these are my fingers. I use them to make stuff. And to eat, to play video games, to make gestures at other drivers. You know, things the hands do. I felt that a nice small project to get me in the mood for the coming season would be for me to make some severed finger props for a haunted house. Whoa, 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 what do you think you're doing? No, you can't do that. That's not how I do things around here. I said props. We're gonna make some props. You need to cut that out. No, wait, that's not what I meant. Stop it. Can we just get to work, please? This project is going to be one of the more simple projects that I've done so far. To make my temporary molds, first I need to cut some pieces of PVC that are a bit longer than my fingers. Next, I'll hot glue those pieces of PVC to some pieces of foam board. For this project, I'll be using alginate to make the molds with my fingers. Alginate is a skin-safe and cheap molding material, and this whole bag only cost me about 20 bucks. The downside to alginate is that it is really just a one-time use molding material. For a more permanent mold, I'll need to use silicone, but I'll get into that a little later. Now that I have those mold boxes ready, I'll fill them with dry alginate and dump it back into the cup. The reason that I did this is that now I'll hopefully have the correct amount of alginate to fill the PVC tube. I just need to mix the alginate with water, and after a few minutes the alginate hardens, which gives me a temporary mold of my finger. Unfortunately, alginate isn't very durable, and over time it will dry out and shrink. For this project, I'm going to make molds of my thumb, my index finger, and my pinky finger. For this project, I invited Mrs. Squirreland to come by and lend a hand. Say hi to everyone watching. Good job. Now we just repeat the process for her thumb, index finger, and pinky finger. I also invited Mama Squirreland out here to help me get this project pointed in the right direction. We repeat the process one last time for the same 3 fingers as the other molds. It's important to support the hand so that the finger that is being molded doesn't move around too much, because that can create unwanted air bubbles in the mold. It's also important to make sure that the finger doesn't press up against the side of the PVC tube, because doing so would create defects in the mold as well. Now that all of the fingers have had alginate molds made, it's time to make plaster castings from those molds. Since the alginate shrank a little bit overnight, some of them were released from the tubes very easily, others did not. When I was pushing the alginate out of the tubes, I accidentally cut the backs of my thumbs on the sharp edges of the PVC tube. A little dab of super glue and it's good as new. While the glue dries, I'll just go ahead and clean up any dingleberries on all of the other fingers. To make the silicone mold, all of the fingers need to have a flat base, so I'll just go ahead and take care of that right now. Next, I'll need to make a temporary box to make the silicone mold. I had a bit of trouble with hot gluing the fingers to the board because they weren't fully dry and the moisture in the plaster was preventing the hot glue from sticking properly. Eventually I got them to stick long enough to pour the silicone to make the mold. With all the fingers glued down, it looks like some kind of bizarre art project. I'm glad that no one was around to see me running this through my table saw. I cut the sidewall so that they were about ½ an inch taller than the longest finger on the board. I made sure to seal up all the seams with hot glue because silicone could never be trusted and will leak out through a pinhole if I let it. With my mold box assembled, I actually did a bit of math to calculate what volume was inside the mold box and what that meant as far as how much silicone I needed in my bucket. Ooh. Just look at those oh so satisfying swirling colors. I start by pouring a thin layer of silicone over each of the fingers and allowing it to stretch out very thin. This pops many of the bubbles that are close to the surface of the mold subject and will hopefully give me a bubble-free mold. Demolding was going a bit slow, and I eventually remembered that I did something like this once before, and all it needs is more power. Like a table saw. There we go, much better. Unfortunately, the plaster fingers didn't pop out like I hoped they would, and I basically had to chisel them out. It would have been nice to have been able to keep them, but now they're basically dust. A quick scrub down with the toothbrush and it'll be ready to go. Next I'm going to use the leftover pieces of the mold box to build a housing to go around the silicone mold. With the housing built, I can finally start making some foam fingers. The dowels will create back pressure and push all the foam into the details of the mold. So this didn't go well. Everything got stuck in the mold. I had to rip everything to get them out, which destroyed them in the process. I had to rethink this if I was going to get anything out of the mold that would work. I ended up turning the cameras off halfway through due to frustration.
Didn't you say this was going to be a fun and simple project?
I
Don't lie to the people.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, you're gonna be. I'm like this close to canceling Halloween.
After I took a few days off to come up with a solution, I decided that I'd have to cut my big block of silicone into 3 sections. Not only would I need it to be in 3 sections, but I'd need to cut down the length of the fingers to provide a way to release the foam from the molds. I thought that I was being careful in cutting between the fingers, but unfortunately I nipped the end of one of them. Well, here it goes. Hopefully it works this time. It worked. But the dowels that I embedded into the foam ended up sticking out of the side of 4 of them. No worries though, I can grind it down and paint it red, which will just add to the gore. Just one way to turn a negative into a positive. Next, I used some needle nose pliers to tear off bits of foam from the ends of the fingers. I intentionally made it rough so that it'll end up looking good and meaty. Now for the final step, paint. I start by painting the sticks white to simulate a bone sticking out of the end of the finger. Next, I'm going to paint 2 coats of the flesh tone. Now that the flesh color is dry, I'm going to move on to painting the bloody stumps a nice deep red color. I painted any defects that came from the seams that I had to cut in the mold in the red color. I'll eventually cover them with the fake blood, which will hide the defects, and they'll just appear to be additional gore. After the red paint dried, I added an additional fleshy tone to the tops of the fingers to give them a more dynamic color. Finally, time for the main event. It's what everyone is here for. The blood. Yo weirdos. The stuff that I'm using is a 2-part urethane that hardens when it's mixed together. For this step, I didn't really care about being precise in painting it because I'm pretty sure that having one's finger removed in a horror setting isn't exactly a civil affair. And there they are in all of their horrific glory. I wanted to note really quick that when I got done painting the fake blood on these, and a few extras that I made, my shop looked like some kind of bizarre crime scene. All in all, I'm happy with the end result, but this project ended up being much more difficult and much more aggravating than I thought it would be going into it. I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a painter, and I know that the paint job on these is very rough. I'm absolutely certain that there are many painters out there that could make these things look highly realistic. But for a haunted house setting, where a guest might get a quick glimpse of them in a darkened room, they're completely serviceable. I may end up tinkering with this mold in the future to try to get some higher quality castings out of it, but for now, I'm going to move on to the next project. The urethane that I used for the fake blood is somewhat transparent, which is why I painted the gory bits red first. If I hadn't, the white foam would have been visible through the fake blood. There are a couple of last things that I'd like to make a note of. These are the 4 fingers that had the dowel sticking out, and I think the fake blood covered up things nicely. And these last 2 pictures show how I was able to hide defects in the castings by covering it with fake blood. And oh yeah, I made a necklace. Thanks for watching!